Saving $5,000 sounds hard, but what if I told you that you could reach that goal with just $13.50 a day? That's correct. $5,000 with $13.50 a day. Look, in today's video, I'm going to explain to you a simple way that you can reach this goal without the stress of having to worry about the day-to-day budgeting, etc. Right? Let's go ahead and get to it. Now, why does this work? Look, saving $13.50 a day times 365 days in 1 year leaves you with $4,927.50. Now look, is that $5,000? No, but can you get that extra money from somewhere? Yes, we're talking about $72.50 here. So all that means is maybe you're throwing an extra dollar in, maybe you're throwing an extra $2 in, maybe someone gave you a $5 birthday gift. All of these things contribute to you having that $5,000. And it's really a lot more simple than you think. Now this truly works because it's easy to remember, right? $13.50 a day. You're able to just set that aside and you watch it accumulate. It starts small at first, but like a snowball, it can build up as you add more snow to it. Well, it's the same with this pile of money, right? You're starting off, and you just have one piece of snow, which is that $13.50. But as you keep accumulating that, it starts to grow into a bigger pile of cash, and you're ultimately reaching your goal. Now also, this is something that you can actually do on a daily tracker if you want, or you can do a monthly tracker because these are things that you're able to automate. And we'll get to that later, right? And most importantly, this $13.50 is a small piece of the money that you usually probably spend every single day. The point is, this $13.50 is small enough for you not to feel overwhelmed with getting started. If I told you, hey, we're gonna put away $25 a day, you may really start to question that. If I tell you, hey, we're gonna put away $50 a day, you may really feel that. And the average person isn't really ready to do that. So starting off small and making these daily habits, eventually you can upscale that. But right now, this $13.50 works tremendously. A simple way to look at this is, say for instance, when you're on your way home from work. Normally you may stop and get some takeout meal and it may cost you $13.50 or more. Well, let's go ahead and cut that out, right? There's one way to get your $13.50 right there that you're not even having to think about extra, okay? Maybe on the way to work, or maybe when you're taking the kids to school, you're stopping and you're getting some coffee. Sometimes those coffee runs, like say coffee and a scone, anything like that, that can lead up to $13.50. Maybe it's an Amazon urge, right? You know, you have your Prime memberships and you're just like, hey, you know, this will get to me in 2 days. The point is you're able to cut off something small. You'll see the effects of that and you'll be able to put that into your stash of $13.50 a day, right? So basically what I'm saying is try not to think of this as coming up with an additional $13.50. I would first look at what can I cut back on that can take the place of one of these days, or maybe 2 of these days, or, you know, if you're strong-minded like that, maybe 4 or 5 of the days, right? So you're not having to take that from anywhere else. But, you know, if you just look at what you're spending on the day-to-day, that $13.50 is in there. And like I say, you're putting this towards your future, right? You'll be able to do great things with this $5,000. But first you got to get. Okay, so now that we know why this works, let's talk about how we're gonna get this going, okay? So the first thing you wanna do is automate it. Now, if you're gonna automate it, you need to open up a high yield savings account, okay? Now, most of you all, you've probably heard of a regular savings account and a checking account. A high yield savings account is just another opportunity for you to be able to store your money. It's FDIC secured, and most importantly, up to $250,000. Hey, we got plenty of room to go here. The point is, you can earn a higher APY on your money. This is an annual percentage yield. Let's say in your checking account, you may have 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5% interest for APY on your money in a checking account. Well then, in a high yield savings account, on average, you're anywhere 4 to 5%. Sometimes, depending on the month, if you're really doing research, you have some that I've seen up to 8 or 9%. So it just depends on the money. You always want to make sure you're doing your research on these banks, making sure that they have good track records and good history, right? Some things that I would just give off the top of my head would probably be SoFi, Ally, you know, Capital One, 360, things of that nature, right? There are some great banks as well as Marcus, right? You know, so There are some great banks that are just already have the name brand out there, but you can do some research, and there could be others that could be having really great deals on APY percentages for your money, right? So let's say you have a 5% high yield savings account. For every $100, you earn $5, right? So if you have $1,000 in there, well, shoot, hey, that's $50 that you've earned, right? Like, that's not anything to scoff at. And that's money that's being earned while your money's just sitting there, okay? Now, it's not technically investing, but it is a smarter way to hold your money, especially money that you'll be using at a later point in time. And it's still liquid, right? You're still able to go and withdraw from it when need be. Hopefully we don't have to do so, but it's a way to still access your money, but still being smart with it. Now that you have the account opened up, the main thing you want to do now is to link up your checking or your savings account to this high yield savings. That way you can go ahead and just pull money into it automatically. That's the whole point here, okay? So it can be $13.50 a day, or if you want to have it $94.50 a week, it equates to the same thing. You want to set that up, and remember, like, once you have things automatically going, then it's more of a set and forget type thing. Your lifestyle starts to change because in your head, hey, you know, okay, you know what? I'm no longer working off of this budget of money. I'm working off of this budget of money, because you get used to the $13.50 being away from your account. You get used to making the sacrifice of not stopping up and picking that coffee up, or not stopping and getting, McDonald's on the way home, or whatever the case is, right? You start to move smarter, and like I say, you have to become aware first. And once you become aware, you're now planning the actionable steps, and you're taking the actionable steps to go ahead and work towards your goal. And when you're working towards something, it's just more of a passion, a better feeling. It's a mindset that you have to where you're locked in, and it's like, hey, yo, you know what? I'm actually doing this. I'm getting this started, and I'm actually seeing this money grow, right? It's growing into a bigger snowball. It's growing into a bigger pile of cash. And that's the important thing here. Once you're getting started and get that locomotive going, once it's going, like, hey, you're moving, and also you're gonna have your better mindset for more goals after this, right? You start off small, but then once you see that you can accomplish these small goals, you kind of raise the notch up a little bit. So now we're gonna talk about where you're going to get the $13.50 from each day, okay? Now, one of the first things I can say is that you can bring lunch to work at least 2 times a week. That right there should get you at about $20 per week, okay? $20 per week that you've saved. That way you can put towards the $94.50 per week or $13.50 per day, however you're doing. The next thing I tell you is to cancel one of your subscriptions that you just don't use. You have it because it's just in case, or hey, your mom comes in town and she likes these, but for the most part, it's just $10 that's being wasted each month that you could put towards that $20 that you've already saved with taking your lunch twice a week to work. How about this? Let's go ahead and reduce impulse purchases. That means you're sitting there, whether it's at work on your break, whether it's at home, whether it's before bed, and you're looking on TikTok Shop, and you're looking on Amazon, and all these other places that people look to go buy items, clothes, etc. It's just these random impulse purchases. Let's chill on that. You're probably at $100 a month on that when you really look at your bank statements. So just from those 3 things alone, a subscription is 10. Two days of lunch, that's 20 per week. So now we're looking at 80. 80 plus 10 is 90. And then if you reduce those impulse purchases, that's probably $100 right there. So we've just come up with about $190 to $200 a month that we're able to go ahead and throw towards this goal. $94.50 a week times 4 weeks is $378. So if you already have the $190 to $200 that you've done just from making those simple sacrifices, well then, hey, you're more than halfway there, right? 190 times 2 is 380. 200 times 2 is 400. So you are more than halfway there. It's easy to find the rest of the money after that because you've made the simple cutbacks. That's the important thing here. Are you willing to actually work towards your goal? Or do you want the goal to be handed out to you? Now, if you really want to dial it up, you can make what I call micro income, right? Micro income would be you find something around your house that you do not use. It doesn't serve you a purpose anymore. You have to learn how to let go of these things. Let's not be hoarders, right? There's somebody else that may find that necessary. $50 to $100 a month could be done just by doing this, okay? All right. Next, you can get on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you have some old clothes that you don't like, or some shoes that are just sitting there, right? Either way, put that on Facebook Marketplace. You'd be surprised how many people need something. You'd be surprised how many college students may need this dresser that you don't even need anymore, this bookshelf or a book, right? There's things where you're still able to make money on, right? I'd look at that. And then lastly, how about doing a little bit of DoorDash on the weekend? Even if it's just for 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? That could actually add up to about $150 to $300 a month in extra income. That is money you're able to put towards your goal. Like I say, your goals and dreams won't be working if you're not putting in extra work. I'm not trying to sit up here and tell you to do a budgeting overhaul, just completely redo your life. I'm not telling you that at all. Everything that I've mentioned here is something small that maybe takes a little bit out of your time. I mean, the most that I've said here is the DoorDash for 3 or 4 hours a day on Saturday or Sunday. That's the most. Even if you just did the other things, you would still be at about $300 to $350. So you're right there where you need to be. I'm just putting different ideas in your brain that you probably haven't thought about, or maybe you've just been hesitant to do, but the options are there. So that's why I would call this like the micro income. This isn't taken away from your family or your day-to-day at your job and things like that. This is just giving you another source of revenue to be able to put towards your goal, which is the most important thing right now. Accomplishing that, because once you accomplish that goal, like I said, it's the mindset that changes. So now that we know where the $13.50 a day is coming from, or $94.50 is coming from per week, however you want to do it, now we could focus on tracking it. Okay. Now, like I say, you can go ahead and get what's called like a goal thermometer, right? So if you just look up on Google or Bing, whatever it is that you choose to look up under, you can be able to find these thermometers. And so normally you would have like different degrees and temperatures on each notch that would be going up, and you'd be getting hotter and hotter to the boiling point, right? The boiling point for you would be the 5K. So at this point, maybe I'd make each notch like 250. Or, if you're not as mental like that, maybe it's 500, or maybe it's, 1,000 each time. I personally would go around like the 250 goal. So, 250, 500, 750, 1,000, and then just keep going like that. So that way, I'm able to see like, oh, wow, it might be small changes, but it's still going up. And that will help keep you focused on this, right? Because you're able to see this and like, yo, like, I'm really doing this. It's really getting right there, right? Another bonus thing that I would say, if you are kind of like this technical person, well, then there's free spreadsheets. You can go on Google. If you're a student, you can use Microsoft Excel. It should be free from your school, but there should be different spreadsheets to where you can go ahead and say, okay, hey, like, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, etc. Label it how you want. Even then, when we're talking about labeling, right? Everything is pretty digital now. You should be able to have an app for whatever your high yield savings account is under. And so on that, you can rename your account. I mean, for me, I just call it like the 5K stack, or, the 5K bag, whatever, right? Whatever you want to call it, but name it something so you know the purpose of this. Hey, like, every time you're tapping on this is my 5K stack. Let me see where I'm at now, because the goal is 5K, So like I say, it's just something you want to make sure you're still tracking it. Don't stress on it, but you should be tracking this at least every week or month, something like that, okay? Now, lastly, it's just what would you do with the 5K once you have it? Now, I must let you know, I'm not a financial advisor. These videos are for educational and entertainment purposes only. So, whenever you're doing anything with money, you should do your own research and also consult a legal professional, that way, you're never risking your money and things like that, right? What I'm saying here is there are different options and ways you can go with the 5K. So I can only speak for myself, right? So let's say I didn't have an emergency fund built up, right? An emergency fund is your monthly expenses that are spanned out, right? So you should be able to look at your last 2 to 3 bank statements. See what your monthly expenses are, right? That's your mortgage and rent. That's your utility bills, right? Electric, gas. That's your lawn care, right? It's your, you have a card note. car insurance, the amount of gas you put in there, food on, groceries or eating out, right? Child support, whatever the case is, anything that you are normally having to have as a monthly expenditure, you want to go ahead and count that as that's your monthly expense. With that being said, I would always say, hey, I want to have at least 3 to 6 months put up. Preferably for me, 12 months, but I know we're starting off with small goals, right? That $5,000 can be used as an emergency fund, right? So it's pretty much you have a cushion for if something goes wrong. If you're playing basketball and you hurt your leg and you're not able to physically go to work, well, then hey, you know what? You're not stressed out about bills because you have that $5,000 cushion, right? Let's see here. Maybe something comes up to where you gotta pay an expense on a car, right? Maybe your radiator went out, or you bust your tires, or whatever the case is, right? These are pretty expensive expenses, when you really think about it. And if you don't have a warranty or anything like that, this money can help cushion that. So I'm just throwing out different ideas here, but one thing it could be is an emergency fund, right? Another thing that it could be is some seed money to go ahead and get started in a business. And you have to do some research for different things, right? But let's say you just started vending machines, right? Some vending machines can be anywhere from $500 all the way up to $2,500. That could be seed money to get a vending machine, properly stock it, and go ahead and do some little marketing and things like that to where maybe you can go ahead and place it into someone's, I know for me being a nurse, maybe it would be a clinic, maybe it would be a gym, maybe it'd be, some type of health store. I mean, you just go around to different places and see who actually is willing to do this. And maybe I'll come to an agreement. Maybe you give them 10% of profits for being there, whatever the case is. I'm just throwing out different ideas here. So another thing this money could be used for is if you have debt, right? If you have bad debt, right? And bad debt is going to be high interest credit card debt. Maybe it's a high interest loan debt, just different things of that nature. You want to go ahead and knock that out. So maybe this $5,000 could be used to pay off some debt. That could help out tremendously, right? So that way you can be on the track of building wealth. And if you're not having monthly debt that's coming from you, then you're able to use what was once monthly debt payments to be able to put that towards your new goals, right? That's where real wealth is starting to be built, right? Because that's essentially increases your gap number, and your gap number is total monthly income minus total monthly expenses, and that gives you gap. So another thing you could use with it is to fund your Roth IRA, right? Now, your Roth IRA is a tax-free advantage account, and it's because of the fact that you're putting already taxed money into it, so it gets to grow tax-free, and you can withdraw from that, right? You can withdraw from that, at the age of 59 and a half, but still, you're going to be putting this up to better off your future you, right? That is tremendous because, like I say, you're able to grow this money. That will be investing at this point, right? And I have separate videos that teach you about, trying to mitigate your risks, diversify your portfolio. You have ETFs, you have gold as hedge, you have, realty income and things like that you can hedge against everything, dividend payments. Those are all on different videos, and you can go through the log and actually look at that. But the point is that you can fund your Roth IRA and get your investing going. And then lastly, I can say that $5,000 could be put towards a down payment or something. Maybe you have no car and you've been asking people for rides, and now you're able to put that $5,000 towards potentially purchasing a car. Hey, if you can buy your cash car for $5,000, that would go ahead and make things pretty good. So that way you're not having to get two more bills, right? A monthly car note and monthly car insurance. But there are different ways that you could use this money that could be beneficial to you. And I've just pointed out 5 different ways. So there could be more. Like I say, you just want to make sure that you're looking at this money and knowing that this isn't something to where I'm just going to blow on a trip or whatever. You didn't work this hard to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to put this towards something that isn't going to help me to where I can get this back quicker, right? Because that's how I look at this. It took me a full year to save this $5,000. I don't want to have to take a year anymore. So what can I use this money for that it can put me in a better position so that this year, instead of saving 5 over a course of a year, maybe I'm able to save 10. Maybe I'm able to save 15, right? We start to increase those goals, but we have to make sure that the money we do have, we're using it for beneficial purposes. All right, so now that we're at the end, you know $13.50 a day can get you towards that $5,000 goal, okay? Now that's over the course of a year, and you can do this. Small incremental changes create great habits. Comment down below. Are you working on a different goal, or are you working on this goal? I love to talk about it. And most importantly, hit that subscribe and notification button. That way you can get more videos like these. I cover investing, I cover budgeting, and I cover mindset, okay? Until next time, I'm your host, Marcus, and you're here on Zero to Wealth. I will see you in the next episode.